Canal Park just starting to be illuminated by the sunshine in the background. Sun isn't up yet, but it will be soon. There are some clouds in the sky right now, but sunshine will be the big story today. We see those temperatures right now around the region. Hayward at 59, Ashland at 52, a little cooler at Orr and Ely, both at 52 there. That moisture has started to drag up from the south, and we can see that with our dew points. Hayward already at 56, Superior at 60, whereas closer to the international border, International Falls is at 46. And looking at that dew point, we were dry yesterday, pleasant last night, but now we're turning to sticky conditions for today. And as we get into tonight, potentially seeing that uncomfortable range. So a little bit of moisture in the area right now, but the winds right now fairly calm out of the west. They will be shifting to a bit of a lake breeze as we head throughout the afternoon, which is going to cool the North Shore off, but those winds around 10 miles per hour today. And we see another lake breeze as we head into tomorrow. But here in Duluth, if you're looking to get some fresh air, today is the day to do it. We do see lots of sunshine, temperatures approaching 80 here in the Twin Ports with a slight lake breeze affecting that. But as we look at the future storm track, we do see some chances for storms tonight into tomorrow, but those push past, and then another round potentially Thursday night. So looking at the storm outlook, northwestern Wisconsin gets off free for your Thursday, but still some slight chances for some severe weather on Thursday. But as we head into what we'll be seeing on Friday, we do see some stronger storms start to come in, and they do look to have a very strong impact on the Arrowhead. So as we get into the evening, we do see those storms start to come into play along the Arrowhead, even branching down towards Carlton and Pine County. So a little bit higher of a chance for some severe storms on your Friday. And the main concerns there are the damaging winds, the large hail, flash flooding from the heavy rain. So that's what we're concerned about there. But your highs today, make sure to get outside today. It may be a little humid inland. We see those temperatures up at Orr, 85. We see a little bit cooler down in Moose Lake at 83. But if you're on the North Shore, today is a perfect day with those temperatures in the high 70s, thanks to that lake breeze. But in northwestern Wisconsin, those temperatures in the low to mid 80s as well. So it's a little bit humid, but that's okay because that's what leads into our rain chances for tonight. But thankfully not as humid as it was last weekend. We see more chances for storms on Thursday. Friday is your severe risk, but we're in the 80s today. We start to see those temperatures cool down. Another round of storms potentially as we head into Sunday morning, potentially hitting up north. But we do see some of those cooler temperatures start to hit us on Monday and Tuesday. And Tara, I know I am excited to not be sweating up a storm.
Yeah, I know we're kind of the same on that, where we don't really enjoy the hotter temperatures. I don't function well in the heat. I don't know about our viewers or you.
I definitely don't, that's for sure.
I don't. I just feel sluggish and I'm kind of cranky. You don't want to be around me in the summertime. Thanks, Ben. Well, making headlines this morning, Fourth Fest fireworks have officially been called off, even though they were rescheduled for Labor Day. Duluth Mayor Emily Larson said they hoped COVID-19 circumstances would have improved more by now. But with the current status of cases and the state's gathering guideline of 250 people or less, the city says it's just not possible. Many of you shared your thoughts about the cancellation on Facebook. Marilyn says, open things up and get on with life. Are they going to cancel everything forever? Jan says, responsible and respectful. Good call. Diane says that people can watch fireworks and be safe. It'll definitely look a bit different. Well, it was definitely a different July 4th for everybody without those fireworks, but next year. Still ahead, we'll hear from University of Wisconsin and Minnesota representatives on the Big Ten's decision to delay all sports this fall. Stay with us.
And taking a look at the current conditions at the Range Regional Airport in Hibbing, some sunshine on the plane right now, but at 50 degrees, we do see them kind of lagging a bit, but don't worry, they will warm up to about 80 today. But that humidity is at 100% right now, just because it's the early morning. That will slip down, but it still could be humid inland, Tara.
And thank you, Ben. And now it's time for this morning's Tech Bites from ABC.
In today's Tech Bites, the gaming war is heating up. Microsoft says it will launch the new Xbox in November, just in time for the holidays. That puts it in direct competition with Sony's next PlayStation, which is also expected this year. No word yet on the prices for either console. All Twitter users can now choose who can reply to their tweets. Before sending a tweet, users will select from 3 options. Everyone is the standard default setting, and even if you can't reply to a tweet, you can still retweet, share, comment, or like. Finally, after a 3-year absence, Google Maps is returning to the Apple Watch. The popular app left the smartwatch platform in 2017, but now a new version will let Apple Watch wearers navigate on foot or by car, bike, or public transit. It's expected to be available in the coming weeks. What about MapQuest? Remember that? Those are your Tech Bites. Have a great day.
Turning to sports now, unfortunate news as the Big Ten Conference delays all fall sports for the 2020 season. This includes men's and women's cross country, field hockey, men's and women's soccer, volleyball, and of course, football. Administrators from both the University of Minnesota and Wisconsin said it was a difficult decision.
I know how much our student athletes want to play and enjoy playing. I watch them practice the last couple of weeks, and just watching them on the field and watching the coaches and how they interact and how they enjoy it. It just don't feel good about it.
We are absolutely committed to all of our students. We know that this is a real blow to a lot of their physical training, their mental well-being. All of the resources remain available, and we will work with them just like we work with all of our students on campus to make sure that they're set up for success in every meaning of that word.
The Big Ten plans to consider some other options. That includes the potential of playing these sports in the spring, but that suggestion isn't ideal for some of the fall sports coaches.
You know, are we going to play spring ball? You know, I've got some concerns about that. You know, to me, it's hard to play 2 seasons in 1 year.
And the Minnesota State High School League released updates regarding fall training schedules, which allows teams to get back to work as early as September 14th. Despite potentially not competing until the spring, volleyball and football teams can begin training the 14th and must finish by October 3rd. No more than 12 daily sessions can be organized. Traditional spring sports can start fall training October 5th. Their end date is the 24th. Each school can choose to provide the entire training season, that is, offer a reduced session, or not run one at all. Time now is 5:54. A live look outside to a beautiful start to our morning. Ben will have your weather forecast when we come back.
And welcome back. We are starting off much warmer than yesterday. Some clear skies, although there are a few clouds hanging in the background right now. But a little look at what's going on later. We warm up quite quickly, sunny up until 11 a.m. at 76 degrees. So heating up quite quickly. We do see those lake breezes start to form as we head through the morning, starting to go to that southeast trajectory. And by 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, we do almost hit 80 here in Duluth, and we do have those clouds start to form as we head into the night, and we could see some rain starting later tonight, but it would be a great day for grilling. Looking at our grilling forecast, we do see those temperatures about to hit that 80-degree mark, so not too humid here in Duluth, so it would be a great day to get out that grill. And if you're looking at when to water your plants, would recommend doing it today, but definitely not tomorrow and Friday, as we have some storms Thursday and potentially some severe storms Friday. Tara.
Good thing I just have indoor plants. Thanks, Ben. Well, while the Minnesota State Fair is canceled, some traditions of the Great Minnesota Get-Together are continuing. One of those is the carving of the Princess K of the Milky Way butter sculptures. The pandemic is preventing butter sculptor Linda Christensen from making her annual pilgrimage to the State Fair, but Litchfield artist Jerry Kulzer will carve them this year and has previously worked with Linda carving the sculptures inside the fridges.
After an hour and a half, you feel the chill, and there comes a time where you're a little shivery, and so you're trying to make a smooth line, and you're shaking a little bit.
Jerry wishes Linda could be there to help him if he needed pointers, but is honored to be chosen. For 10 days starting Thursday, a live stream of the carvings will air on the Princess K Facebook page. The fun must go on somehow. Stay with us. More Good Morning America, Good Morning Northland is next.
This is Good Morning Northland.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Terragino. Thanks so much for being with us. This morning, we have the most recent results as they continue to come into the newsroom for both Minnesota and Wisconsin. The primary election had a lower turnout this time around because we saw a huge increase in absentee voting. Election judges in Duluth and Superior say turnout was fairly low throughout the day, but for those who did vote in person yesterday, voting locations made sure people felt safe at the polls with new health protocols in place like social distancing, sanitizing, and more.
We've got the partitions there. They're a little foggy. And then pick up your ballot over there. And then there is seating over there that we sanitize, and we sanitize through here. And we go out and sanitize the door handles so that it's safe for us and for everybody coming to vote.
Meantime, in Superior, City Clerk Terry Callan said the lower voter turnout was anticipated since it's a partisan primary with no contested races on the ballot. She predicts many will vote by absentee by the November election. Now let's get to some of the latest results in the race for a Democratic Minnesota U.S. Senate seat. The Associated Press has called the Democratic primary for Senator Tina Smith. She is the incumbent and has a commanding lead with 95% of precincts reporting now. And on the Republican side of that race, Jason Lewis has been declared the winner. He was the GOP frontrunner. In fact, he and Senator Smith have already had at least one debate together. Lewis served in the House of Representatives from 2017 to 2019. 95% of precincts are reporting there as well. And in the race for the 8th, incumbent Pete Stauber is leading challenger Harry Welty with 94% of the votes. This race is expected to be one of the most watched congressional races across the country. The winner is to face DFL challenger Quinn Nystrom in November. And in the Minnesota State Senate, David Tomasoni leads Christopher Horishak in the race for District 6 with 87% of the votes. Dave Tomasoni currently holds that seat, and the winner of that race will go up against Republican John Moran in the fall. And in the 7th district of the state Senate, Jen McEwen is
is a WDIO News special report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Minnesota. A little bit different announcements today as we have some personnel changes we're going to announce, and it's exciting but a little bittersweet in terms of we have two incredibly dedicated public servants who are going on to do other things, and of course, in true servant leadership model, they're going to continue in their public service. We're going to be announcing a new adjutant general who will replace outgoing Adjutant General John Jensen, who has served this state for decades, most recently as being in charge of our National Guard troops on the ground during the civil unrest, and did a fantastic job of restoring order, protecting public safety, and doing so with the dignity that citizens expect them to do. General Jensen has been promoted to Lieutenant General, and he is now in charge of the director of the entire National Guard for all the states and territories. And the next move we're going to make is someone who this group in here might be familiar with over the years, because it's every time there's a budget forecast or every time there is a surplus or deficit, or anytime we talk about budgets during the legislative cycle, the state's expert and person in charge of that was Myron Franz, the Commissioner of Minnesota Management and Budget. Myron's been doing this work for 10 years. As I said to him earlier today, the commissioner of MMB's time is measured in dog years, so that's about 70 years in terms of how it impacts you. And for those, again, for Minnesotans, this job, it's our chief financial officer, it's the chief accounting officer, it's the comptroller, it's the person who helps negotiate state contracts, looks at state health care benefits, looks at the pensions, all of the things that make the state run, and interfaces with the legislature to make sure that our fiscal policies are in order. And few states have had the success and the solid ratings that Minnesota has had, and a big piece of that has to go with Myron Franz, the team, and the culture he's created. This job means you work across party lines and you simply get results for Minnesotans. It was Myron, Governor Dayton, their team, and the legislature that put in a very robust rainy day fund and budget reserves that we knew the time would come when the rainy day would come. I don't think we knew it would be a hurricane with COVID-19, but had they not did what they did, and under Myron's leadership, had the reserves not been as robust as they are, the impact on Minnesotans and our response to COVID would be very apparent and would be felt. And so Myron's trust that he's built up, he is a friend. He is someone that calms a room by his presence and by his knowledge, and he's also super funny. He keeps me laughing, so it's I thought he was really doing a good one when he told me he was going to move on, and I thought it was another of his long, tall tales to me, and it turned out not to be, so he gets the final one. But Commissioner Franz is going to talk about that. He's going to go over and serve the state over at the University of Minnesota as their chief financial officer, and we know that all of our institutions are facing change, and they need competency over there, and Myron has certainly earned the right to choose to go and serve the state in a little different way, and we are incredibly grateful for that. The good news on this is there's about 2 people in the state that can do this job, and both of them are in the room today. Jim Showalter is going to, we're announcing him as the new Minnesota Management and Budget Commissioner, and for some of you unfamiliar, Commissioner Showalter got his start as the budget director for the state of Minnesota under Governor Pawlenty. He served honorably and did an incredible job. Governor Dayton brought him on. He navigated the budget deficits of 2009 and 2010 as the MMB commissioner. And again, someone who could pick and choose wherever he chose to work. I compared it when we asked him, and he said yes, that he would come back and serve the state. It just reminded me there are those, much like our National Guard, much like our first responders, when a crisis happens, some have to run away from it, some run towards it. Jim is running towards a challenge in a budget that is that we are facing, but he brings a depth of knowledge. He brings a trust. He is an entity that folks know, and I can tell you of the numerous dozens of calls I made looking at how would we find the replacement to this, the name that always came to the top and was spoken with just a sense of trust, a sense of great confidence was Jim Showalter. So for the state of Minnesota, please know, very hard to fill Myron Franz's shoes, and I think we found the one person who will be able to do that, and I am certainly grateful for that. So we'll talk a little bit more here because you're going to hear from our new Adjutant General, Sean Mankey, in just a moment too, but I want to spend a little more time on that after we hear from the Lieutenant Governor and our outgoing and incoming commissioners of MMB. Lieutenant Governor?
Thank you so much, Governor. And today is truly a bittersweet day. We know that budgets are moral documents. That's how we discuss them within our administration. And building a moral budget requires compassion, imagination, and a commitment to the most vulnerable. Commissioner Myron Franz has been an invaluable partner in this mission. And while I am incredibly sad to see him go, I am so grateful for his service to this state. To fill his shoes during this truly unprecedented time, we needed someone who could hit the ground running, who also would center our values of protecting the most marginalized. And Jim Showalter is that person. There are challenging days and decisions ahead, and many Minnesotans feel afraid and uncertain. But we cannot waver in our mission to center children and families, low-income and working Minnesotans, and people of color and Indigenous folks as we do our work for Minnesotans. So thank you, Commissioner Franz, for everything, for the mentorship, for the navigating through what seem like impossible choices, but doing so with great love and compassion and great humor and sometimes inappropriate language. But we appreciate you tremendously, and Commissioner Franz, just thank you. And welcome to the team, Commissioner Showalter. We are just so grateful that you decided to run into the fire and serve at this moment. Thank you.
Well, for those of you who do know me, it's hard for me to sit here and listen to this. It's very nice, of course, but I'm just honored to be able to have served the way that I have. My first thank you, though, actually goes to the people of Minnesota. And thank you for allowing me to serve you for the last 10 years. It's been a real honor. My goal every day was to improve the tax system and the financial system and to support our talented workforce. And in the process, try to help create more opportunities for all Minnesotans. At Revenue, our team helped lead the overhaul of the state's tax system to make it more fair and equitable. At MMB, our team helped restore the state's budget to financial stability, to continue the work of Jim Showalter to build the rainy day fund, to reform the state's pension funds, and to regain the state's AAA credit rating. But we also made it a big priority to improve the diversity of the state's workforce and build a more inclusive culture through emphasis on recruiting, training, and equity. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have made a difference in the operation of state services, but I hope you notice that I've referred to my team. I am so honored to have served with my colleagues at Revenue and at MMB. It is their work and their talent that we should celebrate today. They're the ones who made me look good. I'm proud of the many accomplishments we have achieved together as a team to improve state services for all Minnesotans. And I'm thrilled that Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan chose Jim Showalter to be the next commissioner. But before I get to that, I do want to mention one thing, just kind of a day in the life of MMB. Yesterday we did something at MMB that was a normal sort of day for us. We sold $1.2 billion of state general obligation bonds and highway trunk bonds. In order to do that, we have to go to the market and go to the credit rating agencies, and they continue to support our credit ratings. But one of the things that we found was that the sale returned the most historically low rates we've ever gotten at MMB or at the state of Minnesota. We got interest rates of 1.5%, 1.2%, 1.2%, 0.158%. 0.49%, 0.976%, and 0.946. These are a number of different series of bond offerings. We saved yesterday $100 million for this fiscal year, half of that going to the general fund and half of it going to the trunk highway fund. Not very many days that you get to save the state $100 million in one day. And that was a day in the life of MMB. And I want to again emphasize the team, the Assistant Commissioner Jen Hassemer, our consultants, Prague from New York, Kutak Rock, and the Attorney General's office for supporting us. But that was just what we do, is we try to make sure that we do the best we possibly can to earn the best possible dollar we can for Minnesota's investment. So those savings will benefit the general fund. Now, we also will have more savings in the November forecast because the rates we've got for the new bonds that we received, we estimated we would get about 3.2% on those bonds back in February. So we'll be estimating what that savings will be going forward. So it's a great opportunity for the state of Minnesota, and my gift to Jim Showalter to start his job off with a little extra cash. But one of the things that I'm so glad that Jim Showalter can join us, because we worked together a lot at MMB, and when I was at Revenue, it was people would ask me when I showed up, well, where's Showalter? And when Showalter was up there, well, where's Franz? We were just always together because those were tough years, and we worked really closely together to help solve that budget deficit. But one of the things I think now, as both the governor and lieutenant governor have mentioned, this is not the time for on-the-job training. And as much as it's hard for me to leave after 10 years with all the friends and relationships that I've developed and the accomplishments that we've had here, it's time for me to move on, and I can't think of a better person to come back to MMB than Jim Showalter. And I'm really excited about that opportunity. I know he will provide that experience and steady hand for the next several years, or longer, I hope. But for my next adventure, I'm excited about going to the university. For me, college was the key to my personal success. Without college, I wouldn't be here today. And I'm really honored to be able to go back to the university setting to support education for all people. And I'm looking forward to working with the students, the staff, the faculty, Board of Regents, and President Gable at the University of Minnesota. So I want to end my thank yous with thank you, Governor, for trusting in me. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for your support and your friendship. Thank to the legislature for listening and taking in the information and responding. Thank you to my friends and colleagues around all of state government, and to my family for putting up with my crazy schedule. And lastly, I want to say thank you, Jim Showalter, and welcome aboard.
Well, thank you, Myron. Before I say anything else, I just want to say thank you for your leadership and stewardship at the state. Over the last 10 years, your friendship and leadership at MMB will be remembered. And the university is very, very lucky to have you. And we're also happy to still have your phone number. I am honored to have been asked to lead Minnesota management and budget during this critical time. We will continue Minnesota's tradition of smart financial and personnel leadership. I'm ready to dive in with Governor Walz, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, the legislature, the great team at MMB, and all of our partners. We're going to develop a budget that addresses the current situation and delivers the services, critical services that Minnesotans depend upon. This is going to be hard, but we're up to it. There's so much to build on. I've appreciated the leadership and the critical decisions that the administration has already made, the approach that they've taken to those decisions, and that is how we're going to go forward. I am just thrilled and honored to be offered to join the team, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. So thank you very much, Governor, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you both. And again, I would echo what Myron said. It's public servants who put themselves out there. And when you do this, you obviously are under public scrutiny. But the payoff is you get to give back to your neighbors. And I think for many of us, myself included, joining the National Guard was a part of that. The true citizen soldiers were the oldest branch of the military, dating back to well before the Republic was founded. And folks who are business owners, of teachers, of nurses, mechanics, across the spectrum of things, when called upon, put down what they're doing and respond to the state and nation's call. And some of it is very visible when we have going away ceremonies to serve overseas. We see them when we're sandbagging or we're cleaning up after tornadoes. Some of it has been a little bit out of the ordinary lately, where we see them at facilities, long-term care facilities, swabbing for COVID-19 to protect our seniors, or being asked to drop everything they did on a moment's notice and show up at a time of great civil unrest and pain in our great cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul and perform admirably. Leading that organization is an incredible responsibility. Being the commander on the ground of where Governor Jensen was, and now that position of the Adjutant General of the State of Minnesota and Director of Military Affairs in Minnesota will go to Sean Mankey. General Mankey has served as an Army aviator. He has served nearly 30 years with the military. He has been in the Minnesota National Guard, serving positions across the spectrum, and deputy commander of our Red Bulls. He is prepared to do this work. As we talked to, and I was out talking to the troops, the warriors that General Mankey will command know he has their best interests at heart. They know that General Mankey will ensure and advocate that they have the best equipment necessary, the training necessary, and the missions are clear when they're asked to do those, either for the state of Minnesota or for this country. It's incredible responsibility. I think many Minnesotans may not be familiar. Minnesota has one of the largest contingents of National Guard in the country. We punch way above our weight, if you will. We are in high demand of missions overseas. We are in high demand when it comes time to what training looks like and implementing new equipment rollouts. Minnesota is always right there. And so I want to, before he comes up here, thank General Mankey, but I also want to make note of this. No warrior deploys alone. To the family of General Mankey, thank you. Many birthdays have been missed. Many graduations have been missed. It's not just 1 weekend a month or 2 weeks in the summer. It's when your state or nation calls and you respond at that time. So we want to thank you for your dedication to this, congratulate you. This is a career that is continuing to go up. I think, as we saw with General Jensen, the rest of the country watches what the Minnesota National Guard does. They know what to expect of them, and they know the results will be exactly what we ask. So I am proud today to introduce to you, Minnesotans, and to our citizen soldiers, our new Adjutant General, General Sean Mankey.
Good afternoon. First of all, Governor Walz, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, I want to express my sincere appreciation for the opportunity to be the next Adjutant General of the state of Minnesota and for your trust and confidence as we move forward. It is not a task that I take lightly, and I assure you, Governor Walz and the citizens of Minnesota, that I will do everything in my effort to ensure we sustain the best National Guard in the nation. I would also like to thank Lieutenant General Jensen for his leadership and guidance, not only to me, but all the service members in the Minnesota National Guard. He was a tremendous Adjutant General, and he's a tremendous leader, and one that we have all learned a great deal from. Thank you, General Jensen. I'm honored and humbled to follow him in leading the soldiers and airmen of the Minnesota National Guard. It's a great opportunity and one that I am looking forward to tremendously. Governor Walz has built a strong and capable team, and I look forward to working both as the Adjutant General and on his cabinet as the Commissioner of the Department of Military Affairs. I know that our state faces unprecedented challenges at this time, but I'm eagerly and looking forward to working with the other commissioners for the greater good of Minnesota. To my family, Mary, Kaylee, and Lucas, thank you for your continued support and allowing me to serve. We have made service in the military a family affair. I am blessed to have such a supportive family, with my daughter and son choosing to serve in the Army. To the soldiers and airmen of the Minnesota National Guard, Your professional service continues to set you above the best. You are the most important part of the team, and I commit to you all the resources available within our organization and within our state to ensure you are trained and ready. To the citizens of Minnesota, our service members live here, they work here, and they serve here. They are your neighbors, your employees, husbands, wives, daughters, and sons. I commit to you they will be trained and ready to respond whenever called upon, whether it be in the community, in our state, or for our nation. I would ask for your continuing, untiring support for these great Minnesotans. Thank you.
Thank you, General Mankey. And I would say, and the National Guard is the epitome of that servant leader. And from the private who signed up yesterday and is waiting for training to the most experienced, it's all about serving and stepping in when asked. And my final thank you comes to, and these are incredibly hard things to ask people to do, General Sandy Best was asked to step in an interim in the middle of a lot of things going on, from COVID to civil unrest, to an NTC deployment, to overseas deployments in support of our troops in defense of our nation. And General Best stepped in, did what needed to be done, and never once asked for the thanks that she so richly deserves and that this state owes you. So Sandy Best, thank you, General. You did what we asked of you, and I appreciate you holding the reins until General Mankey stepped in. We're grateful. And with that, we'd be glad to answer any questions. Yeah, first of all, and again, I think it's appropriate always to look back, and we always do after action reports. I want to be very clear. In an unprecedented situation, I believe the mayor of Minneapolis made the most timely and the most prudent calls in protection of his city that he and his team felt necessary. And I certainly believe that the decisions that we made as a leadership team, General Jensen, myself, Colonel Langer, Commissioner Harrington, was timely and was appropriate. And I think looking back with 2020 vision, I guess the critiques of if we'd have been a week earlier, it maybe hadn't happened. Let's all be very clear. George Floyd was murdered in front of the world. The tension that was built up after that exploded in something that the nation had never seen, and the responsibility to try and figure out how to restore order fell upon the mayor, fell upon our public service, and fell upon me. And so I certainly want to thank State Patrol, thank all of the agencies from the Anoka Sheriff's Department to everyone for stepping up, and for the citizens of this state for understanding that the righteous anger they felt and the right to publicly protest was one thing, but the civil unrest, the looting, and the burning needed to be stopped. So I think the going and trying to find where it's at, I simply, I think we made the right decisions at the time. I feel confident that we did that. I think those who looked at this felt confident, and keeping in mind that we were in communications as high as the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the President of the United States as this was starting to play out. And I think what we've seen is that these things can go in many different directions. And it's certainly unfortunate that we have any type of civil unrest, but I think in a very fluid environment that was moving very quickly, we made prudent decisions when they get made. Yeah, well, I think we should make it mandatory that our civil authorities, and those are emergency managers, and our mayors, our county commissioners, take the training to understand what our capabilities are and try and think what the next one would be. Keeping in mind, when you do an operation that's meant to prevent civil unrest, the Super Bowl and the RNC, for example, it usually takes about 18 months and about $50 million worth of training. to do that. This was in the term of about 48 hours from beginning to end. So I think one of the things is that we should anticipate we're not going to have 18 months lead time, and maybe we should make sure everyone knows what the capabilities are. And they stood up a joint command center, and I want to just be very clear. I think an after-action review, and we're certainly doing that, there's many fronts. I expressed concern again. We're going to have to figure out how to protect First Amendment rights and journalists' ability to be able to cover these events without getting them in harm's way. And I think, again, that's the communication piece. But I want to be clear that these were decisions that had to be made in real time. Lives were on the line. We had credible threats of attempts to kill, especially National Guard troops were singled out individually or as units. And we had to make them. But I think it is prudent for us to go back. And I think that communication piece is one where I would require or ask that all of our partners go through this joint training together. I never think it's a concerning trend when voters go and cast their vote for who they think represents them best. We will have differences of maybe who that would be. I think voter turnout numbers preliminarily look good. I want to take a moment to say a special thank you to Secretary of State Simon and the more than 4,000 professionals and volunteers who helped carry out a safe, effective, and a high voter turnout election. And I think when people come up and you see incumbency turnover, that's a good sign. I trust voters, and they're maybe not going to necessarily agree with me. When I endorse someone, it's usually because I've worked with them. I think they're competent. That is never a condemnation on the person they're running against. It's simply someone that I know. So I think it bodes well. The energy is huge, and I could feel it out there. Whether it falls to a particular candidate in a primary or not, my goal is to make sure we get some folks out there. And the Lieutenant Governor had an interesting point to bring up this morning, and not in the Minnesota way, but a real positive way. So
I also just want to point out the fact that the Posse Caucus, the People of Color and Indigenous Caucus, will grow by leaps and bounds after the primary elections last night. And that is incredibly exciting. As one of the founders of that caucus, to see the legislature more accurately reflect the entire state of Minnesota is something that should be celebrated and that I feel a tremendous amount of energy around. And so I think that will serve us well going into November.
Yeah, first of all, a thank you to the legislators for coming back. I think when this started, there was no precedence, and it's very much a gray area on the use of Chapter 12 emergency powers. These are constitutionally granted. The legislature put them in, but I think it's a fair point that no one actually anticipated them going beyond 30 days. So one of the things that I said, we could probably have made the argument that we don't need to come back and re-vote on them. We didn't take that position. We said the legislature needs to come back. They need to make the case. And if they're able, and the House and the Senate say, no, we are past this and we want to reassume those authorities, they would do so. So I first of all want to say I fully agree that they have this capacity. I think what I would say to them is all 50 states are in this emergency. President Trump exercised his emergency powers and the authority last week. And whether you agree with those decisions or not, there were very few disagreeing that we were still in the pandemic. Just some of those basic things that allow us to do waivers on direct care and treatment, that allow us to order PPE, that allows us to call the National Guard to do some of the testing. I'm just asking that we are still in the midst of this, and every time I ask, what would you do differently, there's really not a response. There's not a response when I said, how about these 20 executive orders? Why don't you take them and codify them if they're there? And that didn't happen. So I would ask them, my job to keep working with them. They asked for me to have a detailed plan around school openings, which we provided, and then to get the input on what changes do we need to make going forward. I wished that the nation would have done things differently in March, April, May, and June, July, so we could be talking about return to normalcy in football, but wishing is not a plan. So just saying, We need to play sports and we need to go to school. I couldn't agree more. We need to do both those things. How are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? So this is an important conversation, but I think for Minnesotans, when they hear this, every other state does this. As far as restrictions, Minnesota, businesses, activities, and other things that return to normalcy, we're more open than the state of Texas, just to be very clear. So just opening early without a plan was no guarantee that you would stay open. Our plan all along has been to continue to move to find that sustainable path. And again, we're very plateaued right now. We'll see. Kevin. That is the least of my worries right now. When someone said you're going to be one term, I'm like, oh, promises, promises in the middle of this. My job is to govern. I have to make these decisions. They're not popular in a pandemic. I think looking ahead on that, certainly from my perspective, that is not my concern. But what I have to say is I think the Lieutenant Governor is really right about this. There's a whole bunch of people that are finding their voice, and they run. And should the people do that, should they say the governor's too moderate, he's too middle of the road or whatever, and they run somebody and they win, then we celebrate that. That's kind of how this goes. I don't think this was a condemnation against them. It was just a desire. And I think this happens. The party out of power feels incredibly frustrated that things aren't going, and you tend to see this rise up, and you see a lot of energy start to rise up. And I can tell you this, the thing that I think I would take away from last night is if you look across the state, one party showed up in a lot more numbers. And that's what elections look like, regardless of who they voted for. But no, I don't ever think that. I can disagree along a political spectrum, but I'm excited to see these candidates come up. I'm excited to see them represent their community. And I think, the Lieutenant Governor's right. When our representatives look like and have life experience of the people they're representing, that tends to work out best. Yeah, he does have the balanced budget, so give it to him.
On the first question, well, you know as well as I do, the guess on whether the federal Congress is going to come through, I don't know. I certainly hope so. I believe, and a lot of this is what a lot of economists have said the last 3 or 4 months. What the Congress has done has been a good start on a relief package. What we need now is a stimulus package to help businesses and states continue the work that we're doing so that we're ready for this the uptick that will happen eventually. So I'm hopeful, but I don't have any inside information. On FEMA reimbursement is a really potentially good tool for us, and we have a lot of our expenses that qualify for FEMA reimbursement that are related to COVID-19 responses. In particular, a lot of the work at the State Emergency Operations Center, the people that work there, the work that goes on there generally qualifies for FEMA reimbursement, but it's a slow process. So number one, you have to identify those expenses, then you have to put together the application, and then you have to have spent the money first. So it's a reimbursement model. So that's partly why there's a lag, because some of the money we appropriated in March and April for these tasks is now being spent. So we're now getting these applications in, but in addition to the time lag in putting in the applications, you have the time lag of FEMA responding. And we're just learning now how FEMA is responding to some of these across the country. So we'll know a lot more in the next month or so. But we frankly hope that there could be a lot of reimbursement for some of the expenses we've done, both the money that we expended at the state level with the COVID Minnesota Fund, and also some of the other monies that we've expended, that the legislature appropriated, but also some of the money that we've spent through the CRF fund. So we will continue to monitor that. That's a very important function we're engaged in right now, is seeking FEMA reimbursement. Yes, we have made some applications already. I don't know that. We'll get that for you. it's tens of millions, we hope hundreds of millions. It's literally hundreds of millions, but we just don't know how many hundreds of millions yet.
Peter, I would take it on the end on the expectation of federal help. I would just tell you that the National Governors Association has never been more unified. This is a bipartisan group of all of us, very clear on the state's needs, the local needs. I will tell you this, we had a conversation 2 days ago with the Vice President and the NGA folks. I'm not as hopeful as I was. I think the administration has turned away from that idea, and of course the President's executive orders did not include anything in that. So I'm not as hopeful as I was. I think we certainly, as governors, really want to make sure, because we're carrying it out. They told us they would federally direct, locally implemented. That's what we're trying to do. But it was pretty much the promise that was made to us is when they told us they weren't going to supply PPE and they weren't going to do the testing, that was the state's responsibility, they would help support us in those efforts. And in fact, that has not happened. And so a lot of the states are wondering how they're going to, I mean, Myron and Jim could probably talk better about this. Every state is in the same boat. Some are in a real crisis situation because they did not have the rainy day funds, and their obligations are much bigger than ours. So I'm not as hopeful as I was. I do think it's a major priority. I do hope that because it's so bipartisan, this is where elections can be helpful. We're making it very clear to both Vice President Biden and President Trump that as governors, it would be a really great thing if you helped out the states, because that's really important for us. And so we're making that case. Kevin? Yeah, we're going to have to look at everything. I don't know. I can't speak to the number. I do remind folks that if you recall, remember how long ago this seems like last January? Remember when the statements to me is why we are not giving back the projected budget surplus? And I said because that would be reckless and irresponsible because you don't yet know what's going to be there. So I think we're all going to be working on this. I have made it clear, and it never makes anyone happy when you say this, that we have to look at every corner. We have already in our agency started to make these hard decisions. We asked them to go through and make scenarios, but I want to be just absolutely clear. It is foolish for us to not invest in the things that grow the economy. I want to just hope this story gets told when I have been saying the most fiscally responsible thing we could do in job creation and for the state of Minnesota in protecting our assets and our critical infrastructure was to do a bonding bill. 0.158 interest rates. The next thing from that is they would be paying us to do it. That's how close that is to that. And so what I would ask them as we tackle this together, to keep an open mind. We're not going to cut everything we do to help people at a time of crisis, because many of the programs, especially in places like DHS, are helping children at a time when we need it. So we're going to have to be smart. There's going to be a long game on this, and it's one of the reasons, just to be very clear, I wanted someone who knew how to do this, who had done it, who took the steely-eyed and look, but made sure we were protecting Minnesotans, and that's what Commissioner Showalter did at one other time. So there is a lot of expectations. I said I hoped he wouldn't be expected to answer the question how we were going to do it today, but the guiding principles are, we've done this before. We didn't undermine the state's credit rating. We did not put the burden on one group of people, and we did it in a balanced approach. And I would assume that we're going to come at it that same way. So, again, thank you all. Thank you to our dedicated public servants. Myron, wish you the best over there. Jim, welcome aboard. And General Mankey, you know the responsibility you have and the privilege of leading the greatest National Guard in the entire country and some of the greatest warriors in the world. And you are the person to do it. So congratulations to you. Thank everyone.
This has been a WDIO News Special Report.